For thousands of years, human civilization have held unique privilege among all creatures, the ability to think, write, read, and communicate. And this extraordinary gift, however, is slowly fading. Since COVID, I started to notice a huge decline in my reading habit. I scrolled through Facebook posts, read every Instagram story, started watching TikTok, and I could not really read a single page. And whenever I started reading 3-4 pages, it was pretty itching all the time. I could not really hold on to any long form content. And it was pretty devastating for me inside, because I noticed that when you cannot read, your thoughts, your mind pattern, it just remains stuck. And as a result, you start to feel more and more in doldrums, in more dark valleys. And everyone needs to get outside and feel the rhythm and feel the fresh breath of ideas. And it happens only when you really focus on, becoming more and more great thinker and great reader. And this habit is seemingly the most important one right now. But today I want to really, get to the core of why reading is such an important habit, and why everyone needs to really go for it, and how it can really impact your life. So first of all, why reading is so important. There's a book called The Reading Mind by Dalian Wilhelm, and I think he really smartly outlines 3 things. When you start reading, you start to extract ideas out of the sentences, and as you keep reading, you start to really connect these ideas in all the sentences. And as you finish the page, you start to integrate all these thoughts and ideas into your mind. And as a result, all these incredible processes take place. You see, extraction, connection, integration, all these 3 things happen when you read a physical book. And that is not possible with social media reading, because as you read through social media, you're always hit with a barrage of information overload. And as a result, you start to feel dizzy, and you start to lose the momentum and the pattern. And at the end of the day, you know nothing. While book is like a portrait as opposed to a photograph. It's like a photograph is like a click, and a portrait is like you go through it layer after layer, layer after layer. You come back to it. It gives you more and more depth into your story. While photograph, the image is just like a quick click, a quick glimpse. But you need a portrait, a book, a powerful book that really, holds your attention. Secondly, your memory and emotions need to be trained. And for that, book provides the best healing ever. When I was addicted to social media, whenever I would read 1, 2, or 3 pages a day, I could not really hold on to anything. My moment of isolation, meditation, reflection, contemplation, everything was gone. And I was feeling like everyone is watching me, and I need to really watch them as well, and that there's just so much happening in the world, and I need to attend to it, and I need to see what's really going on. And I started to feel more and more demanding to social media. And every now and then, I felt that book reading is becoming more and more important, but I could not really keep that habit because I was not giving attention to the very important element, and that is memory. And a memory, the cycle, is really used and utilized the best when you are contemplating at one thought, when you're really focused on just one single idea, one single book, and when you really just share that attention, share that span of attention to 2, 3, 4 things, then you are unable to really hold on. You completely just swizzle yourself into an unknown territory, and you don't want that. And this constant endless hustle would not let me finish my book. And as a result, I started to feel clunky and terrified. And I investigated this problem. I really studied this, and I thought, all right, why reading is just so important, and why I cannot read. I bought so many books. I started giving attention, but I just could not really, get more out of it. I could not really finish my books. So I decided to train my brain. So I took off from social media, absolutely uninstalled every app, and focused on my book reading habit. And what happened was that I started to see a massive shift in my brain. Every time I was in a lecture, every time I was listening to something, every time I was reading something, I could focus. My thought process, everything was really stable. And before that, everything was just unhinged. And as a result, I was able to really finish a lot of books. One of the recent books that I finished is this one, Destined for War, Graham Ellison. And before that, I also skimmed through so many pages. I could not get to the bottom of it. But, when I started taking some time off of social media, I realized that it's very much possible and very much inevitable when you give it your best shot and when you really take off from social media. Another important reason why you need to start reading is for communication and personal branding. Look, it's 2025. It's a very tough world outside. If you're a young college student, or if you are someone who wants to lead a campaign or start a business, you need to really be a great avid reader, because in a real world, you need negotiation. You need to be able to close the deals. You need to be a big problem solver. And for that, you need knowledge. And great knowledge comes from great books. And then you need to apply that knowledge into a real world. And so basically, if you really want to make a change, if you really want to market yourself in a very chaotic world, then you need to really start reading books. Because if you can't really articulate your ideas, and if you can't really lay out your thought processes with the group in a group meeting, then it means that you're simply a couch potato. You cannot really become a savage until you become the best reader. So how do you develop a powerful reading habit? Well, you need to give at least 30 minutes a day. For me personally, whenever I wake up in the morning, I usually start with my rituals, and then usually a 30-minute book reading. Sometimes it ends up to 40 minutes, but it's the most amazing way to start your day as well, because as a result, you get to have some nice ideas in your mind. And when you really carry your day with some nice thoughts, then eventually you feel more and more sharpened, more and more articulate to find a solution to a problem, but obviously with no distraction, because when you're reading a book, make sure that there is no phone. Secondly, find a partner, because every now and then when you read a book, when you read a classic book, you always want to share that knowledge, and that tendency is fantastic, because the moment you share that knowledge, the moment it strengthens your mental ability, and you need that, especially in 2025. So the best way is to go to a book club, or find someone that you trust, find a good buddy, because I personally have 2 or 3 friends where we share some great intellectual discussions and book reading, all the lessons that we learn from books. Lastly, go with the fiction if you're just starting out. I love fiction, and I think everyone should really go with fiction, because one thing happens when you read fiction. You start to see your image in that story, and as a result, you start to feel thoroughly different in your worldview. You see everything different. Your philosophy, becomes more and more expanded. You see a different horizon rising in your heart, in your mind. Just like, I recently started reading this book, Crime and Punishment. It's one of the most incredible reads. And when I started reading it, I felt more and more in depth to it. And I started to feel like, every now and then, when I read it again and again, I try to think and then rethink. And so that there's this amazing depth to it that I think everyone needs to taste and to kiss that really moment. and it happens only when you read, and when you read it with open heart. So make sure that you start reading. And personally, this is one of the wildest journeys you can ever come across. Without reading, a mind is like a bully all the time, and you don't want that. You want your mind to be nourished, to be nurtured in the right way. And today, the best option is to read books. So thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video.